That one. Yeah. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome members, officers and members of the public to this meeting of the Council. Before the meeting starts, I would like to invite the committee member and scrutiny manager to update you on the systems being used and to confirm that officers in remote attendance are present.
Thank you. Can I just conduct a quick roll call of officers attending my Zoom? Have we got an Anne Banner?
Yes, here, present, thank you.
Thank you. And Jo Dufficy, please. Can you confirm you can hear us?
Yep, I can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to the rules of debate. If a member wishes to speak, they should use the speak button located on the microphone unit. The microphone will light up green and the chair will be alerted of your request to speak. When the chair invites you to speak, your microphone will be made live and will turn red, at which point you can speak. The normal procedure rules in respect of debate and time to speak will apply. Voting. When requested to vote, voting will be via the yes, no, abstain buttons on your microphone unit. Details of how members voted will be shown on the screens around the room and the result will be visible on the YouTube stream. In the event of a tied vote, the chair will have the casting vote. Are there any questions before we start? Thank you. I'll hand back to the chair.
Item 1, apologies for absence. I've received apologies for absence from councillors Chris Hinchcliffe and David Barnard. Councillor Debenham has informed us that he will be late. Are there any further apologies? Councillor Brown.
Councillor Lisa Nash.
Item 2, minutes. I would like to propose that we take as read and approve as a true record the minutes of the meeting of Council on the 23rd of May 2024. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Allen.
Happy to second.
Are there any comments? No comments. Can we go to a vote?
Chair, that motion's carried.
Item 3, notification of other business. There has been no other business advised. Item 4, Chair's announcements. Recording. In accordance with the Council's policy, this meeting is recorded. The recordings will be available on both the Council's YouTube page as well as the Council's ModGov site alongside documentation for the meeting. Climate emergency and ecological emergency. Members are reminded that this Council has declared both a climate emergency and an ecological emergency. These are serious decisions and mean that as these are emergencies, all of us, officers and members, have that in mind as we carry out our various roles and tasks for the benefit of our district. More details are included on the agenda front sheet. Declarations of interest. Members are reminded to make declarations of interest before an item. The detailed reminder about this and speaking rights is set out under Chair's announcements on the agenda. I would also like to remind all councillors who haven't undertaken the Code of Conduct training that this is mandatory and must be completed by the 30th of July 2024. I would also remind all those who were re-elected in May to confirm your interest in the monitoring officer. Rules of debate. Please can I remind you that the normal procedure rules in respect of debate and times to speak will apply. No speeches may be made after the mover has moved a motion and explained the purposes of it until the motion has been seconded. When seconding a motion or amendment, a member may reserve their speech until later in the debate. In accordance with the Constitution, please can members ensure that no speech exceeds 5 minutes without the consent of the chair. Comfort break. This evening we have items on the agenda which refer to strategic planning matters. For the purposes of clarification, in order to vote on these agenda items, a member must be present for the entirety of the debate and consideration of those items. If a member leaves the room at any point during these items, they will not be able to vote. This applies to agenda items 15 and 16 and the corresponding referrals 8F and 8G to be heard alongside those items. For all other business on the agenda, a member may leave the room during the debate and consideration of that item and be able to vote. However, please be mindful of the business on the agenda and wherever possible, leave at an appropriate point in the proceedings. General election, I would like to say a big thank you to all the staff involved with the successful running of the general election. Whether working at the polling station, conducting the postal vote process, or being part of the overnight count team, your role is vital to the democratic process. Also, I'd like to specifically thank the core elections team at North Herts Council, Mel, Tom, Tanya, Daniel, Dominic, Simon and Callum, who've worked tirelessly to deliver the all-out elections in May, followed quickly by the general election in July. Finally, congratulations to the 3 MPs elected covering the North Herts area, Chris Hinchliffe, Alistair Strathern and Kevin Bonavia. And commiserations to those who were unsuccessful in their re-election or who stood down at this election. I'd like to thank you for your service to North Herts. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say a little bit on this. Thank you so much to Democratic Services. You guys were phenomenal on the night, all throughout the day, all the volunteers that were involved and the people that did the count. We really do massively appreciate it. I'd like to congratulate Ruth Brown and Chris Lucas on their campaigns and the clean, open way they fought them. I'd like to congratulate my Lib Dem colleagues on their large increase in their numbers in the House of Commons. Sir Oliver Heald and Bim Afalami have both been supportive of our local community, and Sir Oliver in particular has offered decades of support to residents in North East Herts, so I'd like to thank them. I'm so proud of Councillor Chris Hinchliffe, who worked tirelessly throughout this campaign to become North East Herts' new MP. Alistair Strathern, who will represent the Hitchin constituents with tenacity, as he has mid-beds. And Kevin Bonavia, who will show Nebworth residents what a McFull-time MP can do. I believe this is the first time we've had all 3 MPs for our district and our council being minority led by Labour. And I can assure residents and councillors that, as Sir Keir Starmer said, we'll work with you no matter what the colour of your rosette is. So thank you.
Okay, item 0.7. Long Service Award, Kevin Abbis, 40 years service. We want to congratulate and thank Kevin on dedicating 40 years of service to North Herts Council. Kevin initially joined North Herts via a youth training scheme in 1983, before moving on to a permanent position in the payroll team in 1984. Kevin went on to work within a number of departments, including audit, housing loans, microfilming, punch room and ratings before settling in the computer room, which subsequently became IT services, finding time to meet his wife Julie along the way. Kevin has excelled within the IT team, holding a variety of positions within our help desk team. Kevin started his current role as help desk customer support team leader in August 2015. Kevin enjoys interacting with people and is widely known by staff and members. He has been heavily involved with several key projects such as office accommodation and the rollout of equipment at the start of the pandemic. With technology ever changing, Kevin has adapted and risen to every situation the department has faced. Kevin is North Herts Council's current longest serving staff member and a treasured member of the IT team and whole council. We would like to thank him for his service, dedication and all the hard work over these years. I would like to propose that the council place on record its sincere thanks and appreciation to Kevin Abbis for his long and valuable service to local government. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Allen, thank you.
Second. Very, very happy to second this. Thank you, Kevin.
Are there any comments? Councillor Munther.
Sorry, thank you. Well, I knew Kevin had served the council for an awful long time. I didn't realise it had been the time of which you referenced. So thank you so much, Kevin, because I certainly know that when I was a newly elected member, you helped me get myself sorted and set up. So I was able to respond to the emails from my residents. And I won't say I hope you have another 40 years because there's surely a well-earned retirement coming into play. But thank you very much on behalf of the Conservative Group for your service.
Councillor Strong.
Yes, thank you. I'd also like to thank Kevin for all the support and work. Certainly, whenever I've got any little problem, it's always a joy when you get Kevin on the end of the phone. What I would like to say as well is that I think Kevin is also a very good count agent at elections, and you didn't have that in your list. And so I just think we should add that to the list of the tasks that Kevin has done while he's been with the authority. Thank you.
Councillor Ruth Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I was also unaware that he'd been here quite that long, but just want to thank him for his service and for the calm and cheerful way in which he deals with IT problems. IT for me is something that I love when it works, and I get very stressed about when it doesn't. And I've had many conversations where I was very frustrated, and he's been a real calming and very helpful and assistance, given me assistance, and he's also been very prompt. I think I've had really good service from him and his department, his staff. So I just want to place that on record. Thank you so much. It makes life easier when you have that kind of IT support.
Councillor Ian Albert.
Cheers. Thanks, Chair. And as the executive member for IT here, as well as the finance, I know the importance of IT, and I know the importance of our IT team, and Kevin has been such a fundamental part of that, certainly since I've been on the council, and indeed obviously since I've been responsible as the executive member for this area since 2019. I really like to thank Kevin for his amazing work over all those years, and I hope he won't be going just very soon from us, certainly, because I think his work. But I think the key thing there is the way I think actually that Kevin's, I think the way he takes forward has actually really embedded itself in the whole of the team, and that culture of service in the team. So I'd really like to thank Kevin, his team, the manager Darren Edwards, for the great work that IT team do. So I very much endorse this recommendation.
Councillor Amy Allen.
I just wanted to say thank you to Kevin for always being there when I've had an issue with my laptop or any of my other tech. It's been, he's just ridiculously helpful when I get on the end of the phone to him and go, Kevin, I think I've broke it again. But legitimate like that as well. So, and I've really enjoyed the times when I've been able to pop in to the computer suite and be able to have a good chat about some bits and pieces and stuff. Yes, I knew how long Kevin had been here before. I didn't tell him that I hadn't even been born when he started because I felt that was mean. But yeah, thank you, Kevin. We really, really appreciate you.
Okay, there's no more comments. Chanel, can we move to a vote?
Chair, that motion's carried.
Item 5, public participation. I've invited representatives from my chosen charity for 2024-25, and I'm pleased to welcome Catherine Beach and Lindsay Morley from SANS to make a presentation at this meeting.
Good evening. We're extremely grateful to have been selected as your charity, so thank you very much. And thank you also for inviting us to speak to you about the work of SANS this evening. My name's Kathy and I'm the chair of the North Hertfordshire branch of SANS. I'm going to say a few words about SANS as a national charity, and then I'll hand over to Lindsay here, who will tell you a little bit more about some of our activities in our local branch. Lindsay is one of our befrienders who provides a lot of invaluable support to the families that come to us. So SANS is a national charity that works to save babies' lives and to ensure that when a baby dies, anyone affected gets the support and care they need for as long as they need it. In the UK, 13 families a day suffer the heartbreak of losing their baby before, during or shortly after birth. And that equates to around 4,800 babies a year. And on top of that, a further 15% of pregnancies end in miscarriage. The latest data from 2021 shows that the cause of 33% of stillbirths and 7% of neonatal deaths was unknown. So how are SANS working to change this situation? SANS amplifies the voices of bereaved families and healthcare professionals. It campaigns for changes in policy and practice and funds vital research to understand why babies die. We are involved in over 90 research projects building a better understanding of why babies die. And we are working to improve maternity safety and inequalities in maternity care, for example, through the SANS and Tommy's Joint Policy Unit. Many baby deaths could be prevented through a combination of targeted research and better care. And that's why SANS are involved in a number of government and NHS initiatives to try and improve maternity safety. We work to ensure good bereavement care through providing training and education for all healthcare professionals, including counsellors and midwives. And training opportunities are offered through making resources available through workshops and online webinars. Additionally, bereaved parents returning to work after a loss can find it very difficult, and SANS offers in the workplace training for employers and employees so that people can be better supported in the future. At the very heart of the work of SANS is the support provided to bereaved parents and families. In a moment, Lindsay will tell you more about the support we offer locally in North Hertfordshire. But in terms of national support, SANS offer online forums as well as a telephone helpline, which is open to anyone affected by the loss of a baby, no matter how long ago that was. It could be a health professional needing to talk to someone after dealing with a stillbirth, a newly bereaved parent or a grandparent, or someone who lost their baby 50 years ago. All support is offered for no charge and for as long as it is needed. And I'm going to hand you over to Lindsay to tell you some more about our work in North Hertfordshire.
Thank you, Kathy. Both myself and Kathy are from the North Herts branch of SANS. It's run by a committee of volunteers. There are currently 6 of us, including 3 befrienders, and we offer support to families. We cover all of North Herts, Stevenage, and even further afield, Stockfold and Biggleswade, I think is probably about the furthest that we've had families coming to us. So predominantly Lister Hospital, who we work very closely with as well. Our core support is offered through monthly meetings that we hold at Great Ashby and Stevenage. It's run by 3 befrienders, including myself, who are all bereaved parents. Any bereaved parents or family members are welcome to come along. It's really informal, have a cup of tea, coffee, biscuits sometimes, have a chat. It's not all tears, we do laugh as well, but it's a safe space where parents can talk, they can share their thoughts, their feelings, emotions. We're like, it's perfectly normal. No matter what stage of loss, the feelings and emotions that parents go through after losing a baby are the same, whether that's at 6 weeks or at 40 weeks pregnancy. All of our befrienders are fully trained through SANS, and the training is refreshed, and we do get lots of support through the national SANS helpline as well. There is befriender support available. We also signpost some of our bereaved parents who come to the meetings to other organisations who can help with counselling or a charity such as Stand By Me that you may have heard of locally, who support children, because it's not just the parents that suffer when they lose a baby, it's also siblings that are in the family too. We have a family social group that meets at Hitchin Youth Trust, roughly quarterly, sometimes more often, depending on the need for it and how many people come along. So it's a place where families can bring their children, siblings, place to play. We create memory jars in memory of the baby that they've lost. Sometimes planting forget-me-not seeds, have a little Christmas party sometimes, don't we, for them. We're not, unfortunately, in a position to support children directly. That's not our expertise, so that is where we do refer to Stand By Me charity. In future, we'd like to offer enhanced support for fathers. We do have fathers coming along to the support groups, but they can sometimes be reluctant to talk as part of a group, and the loss for fathers is very different to the loss for mothers. So we would ideally like at some point to be able to have a male befriender as well as the female befrienders to be able to provide a better support network there. Annual events that we get involved with, we hold an annual memorial service in October, so it runs alongside Baby Loss Awareness Week. We run that in conjunction with East and North Herts NHS Trust. It's usually led by Mary Porter, who is the humanist chaplain at Lister Hospital. It's very well attended by our members and also hospital staff as well, who support families when they're bereaved at the hospital. And the hospital choir often provide music for us as well. They have done for the past 2 years, which is lovely. We also participate in the annual Christmas Tree Festival in Hitchin to increase awareness of SANS, hold various fundraising events throughout the year. And we are looking for somebody who would be willing to join our committee to help with our fundraising events as well. Work with the hospital, we do have one of our committee members, Katiso, is our hospital liaison officer. So she works very closely. She's built a very good relationship with the hospital, regular meetings with the bereavement care team, passing on information that SANS can offer about training, webinars that may be interested, any support that's available to them to help further support the bereaved families. The hospital charity is currently fundraising to improve the neonatal unit, and the Lister and Katiso are exploring ways that we can help to support that as well. Past fundraising efforts for the bereavement suite at Lister, and SANS have also been involved with the baby memorial garden at the QE2 in Welling. We're working with Lister currently to provide a rainbow clinic for parents who are pregnant again after a loss. We'd like to see some specific antenatal classes offered through this clinic as well, so to specifically support parents who have lost a baby previously. And we're also working to improve communication to women who have had a termination for medical reasons. Women who have experienced a miscarriage are not always seen by the midwifery team, but their local GPs, and therefore information about SANS, contact details don't always get out in the way that we would like. So we're always looking for ways to share the work that we do. Baby Loss Awareness Week, we take part in, raise awareness about baby loss. It takes place for a week on the 9th of October every year. It's organised by a combination of 6 charities, including SANS, who all work together to support and raise awareness of baby loss. Last year, the Lister Hospital lit the hospital, the whole tower, in pink and blue. There's across the country, there's various different bridges, landmarks that are lit up in pink and blue for the whole week to show support of Baby Loss Awareness Week. And it would be lovely if more local buildings could be lit. I have to say, when I first saw Lister Hospital lit up, I was on my way to support parents at a monthly meeting, and it did take my breath away. Actually, it took me by surprise because I wasn't expecting to see it. It's the first year they've done it. The whole week itself culminates in the global wave of lights. That's across the whole world, where people light a candle for an hour to remember babies that have died. We'd very much like to set up a memorial garden somewhere in North Hertfordshire. While there is a a small memorial garden at QE2 in Welling. It's been there a very long time and it's now locked behind a gate and it's not been maintained very well either. So it is very important for our families to have a focal point for their grief. And in many cases, parents don't have a grave or anywhere to visit. So to have somewhere central like that would be very much appreciated. Somewhere that's easily accessible for anybody who wishes to go. So I'd just like to finish by thanking them again for choosing SANS to be your charity of the year, and thank you for listening and giving us this opportunity to share with you the work that SANS does.
Thank you so much, Kathy and Lindsay, for coming along and sharing all that. Are there any councillors that would like to ask any questions? Councillor Sadie Billing.
Hiya. I'd just like to say I'm immensely grateful for the support your charity provided me during my loss in 2020. It made a significant difference in my life, considering my positive experience in such a hard time. I'm just curious to know more about what sets your charity apart from others in the same field.
Well, we do work closely with other charities. We work closely with Tommy's and with the Miscarriage Trust and the Lullaby Trust as well. So we do work closely with other charities, but I think what sets us apart is our local support groups and our befrienders, the high level of training that SANS offers them, and the ability to make those connections with bereaved parents and build those relationships via the hospital.
There's no other charity that offers the local support like we do, the monthly meetings. It's not just the monthly meetings. We do offer support through the phone, via email. We've got a Facebook group as well. So there's various different ways that we offer direct support, and there's no other charity that does that on such a regular basis, on a local basis, where you can get to know us as befrienders, you can get to know the other parents and share everything that you're going through, the tears and everything.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you again. You don't have to sit through the rest of this meeting. Unless you want to. We are also joined by Alex Robinson and Graham Fisher, who will be providing a presentation for members regarding agenda item 15, Land to the North of the Grange, LG1, Strategic Master Plan Framework. Can I invite Alex Robinson and Graham Fisher to make their 5-minute presentation to members on this item?
Thank you very much, Chair. I won't take very much of your time this evening, but just to say it's a kind of very proud moment, actually, for us to be here. A long journey it's been to get to this stage. But it's a document in terms of the master plan that we are very proud of. And we would very much like to thank North Herts Council officers for the support and the collaboration working with us over many years to get to the point that we've got to today. LG1 for us has always been a kind of exemplar scheme, and that comes with it some heavy responsibility. It is very much a modern day interpretation of an extension of the Garden City, and we try to keep those Garden City principles alive within the development. And it's a development that's also rooted in an extensive programme of community consultation. We spent a lot of time listening to local residents, listening to their concerns, listening to their hopes and listening to their ambitions. And we've worked very hard with officers to try to create a scheme that we think is worthy of the remarkable town that we're in this evening. This is an important development for Letchworth, providing much needed housing. For us, the principle of 40% affordable housing is something that we hold very dear and is a key aspect for us in terms of assuring that the scheme is truly affordable in a part of the country that is for many increasingly very expensive. So that's really all I wanted to say. Thank you very much. The technical team are here this evening to answer questions, which means please don't ask me technical questions because I won't be able to answer them. But we will be able to provide any feedback and points in terms of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any points of clarification from members? Oh, okay. Thank you. Agenda item 6, questions from members. There have been 4 questions submitted by members in accordance with Standing Order 4.8.11. Please note the published papers detail that question C would be put to Councillor Chris Hinchliffe, who subsequently resigned his role as executive member. Therefore, the question will be put to the Leader of the Council, who will provide an answer. Please note question B is not related to the Flexi Contact Collect scheme, but relates to ECO4 plus LA Flex scheme and housing insulation. Legal advice received on the waste contract award. Can I invite Councillor Ralph Munzer to put the question to Councillor Daniel Allen, Leader of the Council?
Thank you, Chair. To ask the Leader of the Council what legal advice has been given to this authority regarding the new waste contract, specifically the conflict of a 3-weekly residual waste collection with the draft statutory guidance on the collection of waste from households, October 2023, which is proposed to be made under Section 45AZE of the Environmental Protection Act 1990.
Can I invite Councillor Daniel Allen to respond?
Thank you very much, and thank you for your question, Councillor Munzer. North and East Herts councils received detailed legal advice from Sharp Pritchard regarding the draft statutory guidance to support the council's decision-making progress. The advice was provided as an appendix to the Part 2 reports to both Overview and Scrutiny and to Cabinet.
You have a supplementary, Councillor Munzer.
Thank you to the Leader for that response, and I sincerely hope that that guidance is in fact going to be published to the public, because whilst I have seen it in the Part 2 papers, this is of course a decision of which impacts on every single resident in North Hertfordshire. But as the Leader of the Council well knows, the purpose of the guidance issued in May was to, and I quote, stop the trend seen outside of England towards 3-weekly or 4-weekly bin collections, thereby ensuring residents get good value for money and preventing smelly waste from building up outside of homes. So does the Leader of the Council agree that by implementing a 3-weekly bin collection of residual waste, not only is this authority going against that statutory guidance and industry best practice, but that it will impose upon our residents a worse service compared to that which they currently receive?
And I invite Councillor Daniel Allen to respond to the supplementary question.
Yes. The Cabinet had regard for the draft statutory guidance in Appendix 6 and has taken that into account. The matters were set out in the Part 2 report. There we reconfirmed the decisions on the 3-weekly collection. One thing I would say, seeing as you have mentioned smelly waste, which is a phrase that I hate and was given to us by the outgoing government, households with smelly waste would be allowed the opportunity for more frequent collections if they're entitled to it. Other than that, Councillor Manser, you have seen all the reasoning and it is all available to you. Thank you.
Local Authority Flex Collect Scheme rollout. Councillor Joe Graziano to Councillor Dave Winstanley, Executive Member for Housing and Environmental Health.
Thank you, Chair. Why is this authority not able to the full benefits? It's actually called Eco4 Plus scheme, LA Flex, unlike other local authorities in the region, including Watford Borough Council and Luton Borough Council.
Can I invite Councillor Winstanley to respond?
Thanks, Chair, and thanks to Councillor Graziano for the question. Just a bit of background. Eco4 is an acronym, Energy Company Obligation, and it's an initiative where energy companies fund energy efficiency upgrades to qualifying private homes. The qualification criteria relates to low-income or otherwise vulnerable households, homeowners. Under Eco4, just Eco4, there is no local authority involvement. Homeowners apply directly for that. Now, Eco4 Flex, which is what the question relates to, is an additional optional element which local authorities may choose to administer. The local authority can declare additional households eligible for the funding, provided they meet the criteria under Eco4. Now, last year, this council instigated the setting up of an Eco4 Flex scheme by partnering with an energy company. Unfortunately, however, progress has stalled on this. Council resource constraints have also meant that capacity to investigate alternative options for a scheme have been severely limited. However, in recent weeks, a potential alternative route has been found with the National Energy Foundation, and we are hopeful that this can be progressed in the coming weeks so that a scheme can be set up. Thanks.
Does Councillor Graziano have a supplementary question?
Thank you for the response. I was going to ask why there was a delay in the Flex scheme being delivered. I did have an update in March from officers that there was an issue with E.ON, so you've clarified that, and obviously you've answered that question for me. Thank you.
I don't think that needs an answer, does it? Thank you. Electric vehicle chargers in North Hertfordshire, Councillor Ralph Muncer to Councillor Daniel Allen, Interim Executive Member for Planning and Transport.
To ask the executive member what plans the council has to increase the number of electric vehicle chargers in North Hertfordshire.
Councillor Allen.
Thank you very much, Councillor Manser. North Herts Council officers procured an EV charge point operator, Blink Charging, under a concession contract in 2023 to deliver and install 36 new sockets over 18 new EV charge points in car parks across the 4 towns. In Letchworth, this would be at Hillshot Car Park, Hitchin in Bancroft Recreation and Woodside Car Parks, Baldock in Twitchell Car Park, and Royston in the Warren Car Park. The contract is at no cost to the council. It will be funded entirely by the charge point operator and a £135,000 capital grant from the Office for Zero Emission Vehicles, which was awarded in September 2023. It's a requirement from the OZEV, the Office for Zero Emission Vehicles, grant that the EV charge points must be available to residents without off-street parking. Each of the above-mentioned car parks are in council ownership, and the location chosen for the EV charge points are within reasonable walking distance of residential properties located within and in close proximity to the town centres. The concession contract also includes the replacement of the existing publicly accessible Genie Point charge points, which are now 10 years old. And they're in the following council car parks: the Lairridge multi-storey car park in Hitchin and Woodside, the Garden Square multi-storey car park in Letchworth, the Twitchell car park in Baldock, and the Civic Centre Town Hall car park in Royston. The contract also includes replacing 2 charge points for the council fleet vehicles in the Garden Square multi-storey car park and the provision of 4 new EV fleet vehicle charge points in the Lairridge multi-storey car park. Officers have been working to finalise the contract with Blink Charging to install, manage and maintain the new and replacement charge points, and it is near completion with expected rollout of the charge points starting in the autumn, with completion before March 2025 in order to comply with the requirements of the OVES grant. Officers are working with the communications team regarding full publicity over the installation of the new and replacement EV charge points, and I thank you for helping with that publicity now.
Councillor Munser, your supplementary.
Well, I thank Councillor Allen for what was a very substantial response to the question. I'm greatly appreciative of that. And as the leader probably well knows, across the district there are 55 EV chargers. All of them are located within our urban towns, our urban areas. But if we are to encourage more people to go electric and for that to be a more reasonable and attractive alternative, then we need to improve EV charging provision right across the district, whether that be in our towns and in our rural communities and our villages as well. Now, having spoken to Kympton Parish Council, I know how keen they are to see EV chargers installed in the village. So the question I have for Councillor Allen is, what is council doing in order to increase the number of EV chargers in our rural communities, such as Codicott and Kympton?
Can I invite Councillor Allen to respond to the supplementary question?
I can give you a basic answer, Councillor Munser, but obviously having recently stepped into this position, I will give you a more in-depth one. But the basic answer I can say is we are working with Hertfordshire County Council. They have prepared and are adopting a county-wide electric vehicle charging infrastructure strategy. One of the big things to do with that are procuring suppliers to deliver EV charge points across the county, and especially working for funding for in 25 locations within North Hart, including outer urban locations. So that is something that is coming, and I will give you a full answer very soon.
Planning Control Committee Agenda Management. Councillor Ruth Brown to Councillor Elizabeth Dennis, Chair of Planning Control Committee.
As Chair of the Planning Control Committee, what measures will you put in place to prevent a repeat of the debacle of 13th of June when the meeting ran on till 1 a.m. in order to ensure that all future agenda items, including complex and contentious applications such as the Bygrave Solar Farm, receive the proper consideration they deserve with the guarantee of fair and robust decision-making?
Can I invite Councillor Dennis to respond?
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry that Councillor Brown feels that the Planning Committee meeting of the 13th of June was a debacle, or that there was an inadequate level of scrutiny. In fact, I think that members of the committee did an excellent job scrutinising the multiple applications, that a lot of them were quite complex on that particular evening. And we also received some very positive feedback, both from residents and applicants, in respect of the committee's work on that night. So I apologise again to Councillor Brown if she feels the committee meeting was a debacle on that evening, but I don't think that our communities or those that we serve would necessarily agree in that regard. However, turning to forward planning, as Councillor Brown is aware, I contacted all permanent members and substitutes of the Planning Committee to ask for their views in respect of managing workloads, the flex that we could perhaps exercise with the committee in terms of its start time and various other options. To date, I've only received 5 responses to my request for feedback from members in order to help shape the planning committee in a way that is going to serve the residents of this district and facilitate all members of the committee to play as full a role as possible. So those of you who haven't responded to my email, you know who you are. Please get back to me so that we can help make the planning committee a really great place and ensure that the robust decision making that did occur on the 13th of June is able to carry forward and that we don't have to keep running meetings on late. I'm also regularly receiving updates from our lead planning officer, sometimes weekly, on the pipeline of work that's coming through to the planning committee. And what we do is we go through that, we check the deadlines for commercial applications and when they need to be heard at committee, as well as balancing the contentious applications and seeing where the flex in the system in order to meet timeliness and also deliver robust committee scrutiny can be found in those spaces. That work will absolutely be ongoing to make sure that those agendas are manageable. And in respect of the Bygrave solar farm, I did specifically ask if the applicant would be happy to hold that application until a later meeting, especially bearing in mind the general election and that the application itself was likely to be politically contentious. The applicant wasn't minded to do so. It needed to be heard in terms of its commercial timelines. So it went to that particular committee. Had we been able to move that to the subsequent committee meeting, I think that we would have finished at a more sociable time. Ultimately, the challenge that the planning committee faces is the massive amount of work that is coming our way, not just from items that members might be calling in because they have concerns or their residents are concerned, but just the sheer volume that needs to be considered and decided at planning committee. So even after doubling up the number of meetings we have each year, we still struggle to fit them in, and having a meeting start time at 7:30 in the evening really does mean, unfortunately, colleagues, that we will run on quite late. Other councils meet during the daytime. Look around the room. The makeup of this council is such that I think some councillors would struggle with daytime planning meetings. So to all the 5 members that have responded to my request for feedback and suggestions to improve the committee, thank you so much. Again, to those of you that haven't, please get back to me, because as Councillor Brown has indicated, I think there is a point in the evening where effective decision making becomes more challenging, and I need your feedback and participation so we can shape this to be a committee that is really going to serve everyone's best interests.
Councillor Brown, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, I do. Thank you for that response. That was very full and comprehensive. And just for the record, I was one of the 5 that responded. A second meeting scheduled just 1 week after the late night debacle only served to emphasise the chaotic organisation. There were only 2 minor items on the agenda, both called in by a member. Neither item merited consideration by the committee in planning terms and should not have taken up committee time. How does the committee chair propose to ensure that committee time is used properly in future and not wasted by members calling in items for spurious reasons?
Councillor Dennis, would you like to respond?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. So when the members asked to call in items, I discussed that with the planning officers and also with those members involved. It may be that the committee agreed with the officer recommendations in respect of the 2 applications in Baldock that were heard at the following planning committee. However, looking at the emerging national policy that is coming through under this new government, as well as having regard to our emerging policies and points within the NPPF, on review, I felt that it was appropriate for the committee to consider whether or not it was in the public interest to reduce the amount of commercially viable space in one of our town centres. And it is the role of the committee to scrutinise and apply our local policies to the reports and to the decisions that officers are asking us to make. So I don't think that that was a waste of time. And as I indicated, had I been able to move some of the applications that were heard at the committee meeting the previous week, I absolutely would have done in order to balance the time that was spent across both of those meetings, rather than as having a meeting that ran on to 1 a.m. the previous week. Not every item that a member has to be called in is relevant or carries a public interest argument with it. And I think that's the role of discretion in when we're setting our agendas. And we need to remember that while our officers do provide us very good, very high quality professional advice, they're not always right. And it is best sometimes for decisions to be scrutinised in public rather than just dealt with by a delegated decision.
Thank you. Notice of motions, there are none. Item 8, items referred from other committees. 8A, referral from Cabinet 25th of June 2024, annual report on risk management governance 2023 to 24. I will take this referral alongside agenda item 12. Referral from Cabinet 25th of June 2024 in investment strategy, capital and treasury, end of year review 2022 to 2023. I will take this referral alongside agenda item 13. Referral from Cabinet 25th of June 2024, revenue budget outturn 2022 to 2023. I'll take this referral alongside agenda item 14. Referral from Finance Audit and Risk Committee 19th of June 2024. Finance Audit and Risk Committee Annual Report 2023 to 2024. I will take this referral alongside agenda item 17. Referral from Cabinet 25th of June 2024. Leisure investment options. I will take this referral alongside agenda item 22. Referral from Cabinet 2nd of July 2024, land to the north of the Grange, LG1, Strategic Master Plan Framework. I will take this referral alongside agenda item 15. Referral from Cabinet 2nd of July 2024, North Stevenage Strategic Master Plan Framework. I will take this referral alongside agenda item 16. 9. Key decisions, Leaders Annual Report on cases of special urgency. Councillor Daniel Allen to present.
Thank you very much. This report details the cases in which special urgency proceedings were used in the 23-24 civic year to comply with Regulation 19 of the Local Authority Regulations 2012. There were 2 instances where special urgency was required. The 2 cases were: number 1, Cabinet, 27th of June 2023, Local Authority Housing Fund Round 2. Notice was provided on the 7th of June 2023 that funding was available and a response was required by the 5th of July 23. Therefore, was not time to provide the required notice, and the item could not reasonably be delayed until the September Cabinet meeting, as this would have passed the deadline. Number 2, Cabinet Subcommittee, Local Authority Trading Companies Shareholder, 19th of March 24. Trading Company Update Part 2. A decision was required to authorise the initiation of operations of the council-owned entity Broadwater 100 Property Management Limited to enable the leasing of Harkness Court and proceed with the required legal and governance documents, which would have not been possible without sanctioning from the Cabinet Subcommittee. Any delay to approval would likely lead to increased costs of the project. Due to the short notice of the meeting being convened, it was not possible to meet the required notice of a Part 2 decision. For both of these cases, the Chair of Overview and Scrutiny was informed and/or agreed to the urgency as required under the regulations. Thank you, Chair.
Are there any questions or comments? Recommendation that the report be noted. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Allen.
Happy to second, Chair.
Is there any debate? Can we go to the vote?
Chair, that motion's carried.
Item 10, disregard of war disablement income. Councillor Allen to present item. Councillor Albert.
I think Councillor Allen was looking a bit nervous then at that moment. Hopefully, Chair, this and colleagues, this will be a fairly non-controversial item. I think the council and for this administration, and indeed both the previous administrations, the Labour and Liberal Democrat and Conservative, have got a really proud record, I think, in how we support war veterans, and people with war disablement, war widows, and people have been in the armed forces. And I think, as we discussed earlier in the year with the council tax reduction scheme, again with our support for our war veterans as part of that scheme, that was much welcomed, I think, by all of the council. Here we're looking at a very specific example, which is about war widows and war disablement pensions when we're calculating entitlement to housing benefit. We have as a policy, as a council, as you'll see in the relevant considerations, we have disregarded and traditionally disregarded that income over and above what obviously DWP would disregard, which was £10 a week. We've disregarded all of it. What we have, though, discovered in wanting to continue with that policy, that we haven't got a formal policy that actually documents that, and we wanted to set that right, and this is what this paper attempts to do. So it's the paper in front of you and asks you to adopt the policy at Appendix B, which confirms our existing policy, which is to ensure that members of the armed forces who have been disabled during the service, or the widows, widowers, or surviving civil partner of those who died in service, are recognised and not financially penalised when calculating entitlement to housing benefit. And this is very specifically, in this instance, about housing benefit. So I would hope the council would recognise and fully support and endorse the recommendations here, which confirm our existing policy, but also confirm the way I think that this council wants to support our war veterans and their families.
Are there any questions or comments? Councillor John Claydon.
Thank you, Chair. I have certainly no quibble with the policy, but can I just ask, as a matter of interest, how many people approximately across the district are affected by this?
Chair, I think we've got either Anne Banner and Joe Duffy with us, so whether Anne can probably just confirm the precise numbers for Councillor Claydon.
Yes, we've currently only actually got one payment currently. We have had more in the past, but obviously as things are with the world, that may well increase, but currently there's only the one.
We couldn't really hear that. Right. Currently one, apparently. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Munzer.
Thank you. I just will say something quickly. You know, I've strongly welcomed the introduction of this scheme to put it effectively, you know, on the statute book, so to speak. I'm really proud that this council is obviously a signatory to the Armed Forces Covenant, and this is just another way of how we are making sure that we're supporting not only members of our armed forces, but our veterans and our war widows as well. You know, for those of whom have sacrificed so much, it's the very, very least we can do, and the Conservative group is very happy to support this policy.
I can't see anybody else asking to speak, so we'll move to the recommendation that council adopt the policy at Appendix B. Can I have a proposer?
Chair, I'm happy to propose.
Thank you, Councillor Albert. And a seconder, Councillor Val Bryant.
Happy to second.
Thank you. Is there any debate? Councillor Ruth Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I was waiting for the debate to say that our group will be supporting this. Absolutely agree with what Councillor Munster has said. Really glad that we're signed up to the Armed Forces Covenant. We should look after those who've served our country. They should not be discriminated against in any way. And even if there's only one of them, I think it's really important that we continue with this policy. Thank you.
Thank you. There isn't anybody else asking to speak, so can we go to the vote?
Chair, that motion's carried.
Item 11, community governance review of terms and terms of reference. Mel Stimpson to present item.
Thank you, Chair. The report is being presented this evening as the next stage following on from the review of the district ward boundaries. The outcome of the district review resulted in the council moving to hold council elections and increasing the number of district councillors, changes to ward boundaries and names. This piece of work, known as the Community Governance Review, or CGR, now focuses on the parish electoral arrangements, which is the responsibility of this council to review. It does not consider or amend district ward level governance arrangements. A CGR may review any aspect of community governance, including the creation or naming of a parish, establishing a separate parish from an existing parish, the alteration of parish boundaries, the dissolution of a parish, change to parish electoral arrangements, that being the number of councillors to be elected, the year when the ordinary election of parish councillors are held, or whether the parish should be divided into wards. In addition, and following the review of warding arrangements by the Local Government Boundary Commission for England, it's become apparent that some changes to parish arrangements may be required to ensure that they remain fit for purpose and reflect the local communities. For instance, there is an aspiration for the formation of a town council in Hitchin, and Royston Town Council have also expressed dissatisfaction with how the Commission have divided the parish. A CGR can be limited to focus on one aspect of community governance, such as parish boundaries or the number of parish councillors sitting in council. However, given the length of time since the last parish review and the consequential changes from the review by the Commission, it's prudent to ensure a wide range of options are open for discussion at the start of the community governance review. Therefore, the terms of reference for the CGR are broad and they cover all of the district. To signify the formal start of the CGR and to launch the first stage of consultation, the Council must agree the terms of reference, which are attached as Appendix A of the report. And when undertaking a CGR, the authority is required to consult with residents and interested parties. The initial consultation invites comments and suggestions. It includes no prior recommendations or options, so that we are starting effectively with a blank sheet. The proposed consultation questionnaire is attached as Appendix B. So at the conclusion of the first stage of consultation, the response will be reviewed and draft recommendations will be developed by officers, discussed by the Community Governance Review Working Group, and then considered and agreed by full council. These will set out specific recommendations for each parish area under review. So in some cases, the draft recommendations may be for no change. In other, boundary changes may be recommended. In other, the number of parish councillors may be adjusted or new parishes created. There is no assumption or expectation that any given area will be changed. The timetable for the review is included within the report. It's intended to complete the CGR within 12 months. By choosing to undertake the review, it affords us some luxury in that we do not have to complete within 12 months. However, If we choose not to conduct the CGR or to limit it to specific areas, we could be petitioned, and that means that we would need to complete this within 12 months. If there are any changes as a result of the CGR, these will be implemented ahead of the elections in May 2026. So council is being asked to approve. Also, the council is being asked to approve some additional budget for the use of the consultant as the day-to-day lead for organising and coordinating the CGR. There is already some limited carryover budget previously identified for the use of the consultancy service. However, since this review will be wide-ranging, and with the added work and complexities, we will need some additional budget to fund this. So to summarise, Chair, council is being asked to agree the terms of reference for the CGR, to formally start the review and commence the first stage of the consultation. At this stage, it is not for us to discuss any suggestions or potential changes we might like to see, and as well to approve the additional budget for the consultancy service to assist with the CGR. So thank you, Chair.
Are there any questions or comments for Mel? Councillor Matt Barnes.
Just to clarify the scope, in light of the possible introduction of the new town councils, is the devolution of responsibility from district to Royston Town Council part of this review? I couldn't see it within the documents.
The CGR will look at various aspects within the CGR and considered within the report. So it's mostly the parish areas electoral arrangements where it is such as a formation of any new parishes. That will then, there'll be subsequent work to decide on anything of which the parish or the potential new parish then takes on or off of us, which is further down the road.
Councillor Alistair Willoughby.
Thank you, Chair. Forgive me if I've missed this on the report. If there is a case of a potential new council, a parish council coming about, or indeed the opposite of a parish council that currently exists deciding that they don't want to exist anymore, how is that final question put to the people of that affected area? Is there a referenda? What is the mechanism by which that final question is asked?
So with the recommendations that come out of any consultations, so the first stage consultation is literally to get any ideas. From that stage, then we can consider those as a council, and you ultimately make those decisions of which will be supported by anything that comes out of the consultation. But you have another report presented at a future council meeting to decide on what those recommendations then go forward for the next round of consultation.
Councillor Matt Barnes.
Thank you, Chair. So under 5.6, noting Royston Town Council dissatisfaction with the suggested warding arrangement at the moment, in particular the creation of a 6-member ward in Royston Meridian. Is there anything to prevent that from happening subject to the consultation? Or is that something that...
So at this stage, we're not discussing what potential outcomes are. At this stage, it will be purely for us to go out to consultation to get any ideas. That was put in there because we know that Royston Town Council wasn't happy with what the Commission had proposed or have put in place at the moment. So it will be up for anybody, including the Town Council, to put in any consultation responses of what they wish to see. They might not put that in. They might put something else different in subsequently, but obviously it's for them to put that in and of what they'd like to see.
Councillor Donawright.
Paragraph 8.4 little I says, in some cases, changes to parish level arrangements may have an impact on ward level arrangements. Could you explain what those might be, please? And apologies if I've missed it.
Okay, so that basically means on that, if there is anything that, so for instance, the commission have put in place the changes to Royston as well as to Bygrave, in which case, if we were then subsequently going to make any changes to those, we'd have to go to them to inform them of that. We were going to basically change what they've put in place.
Okay, can't see any more requests for questions. So the recommendations are 2.1, the council agree the terms of reference for the community governance review, signifying the formal start of the review and commencement of the first stage consultation. And 2.2, approve the additional budget of £20,000 required for the use of the Association of Electoral Administrators Consultancy Service to assist with delivering the community governance review. Can I have a proposer? Councillor Ruth Brown.
Oh, I was going to let Daniel go first.
Oh. Councillor Allen.
Happy to propose, Chair.
Councillor Ruth Brown.
Thank you. I'm very happy to second this. I agree with the wide-ranging scope. We've had obviously quite a big change at district level with additional councillors and changing of ward boundaries, and there are a number of parishes which definitely need to be reviewed as a result of that. We've also got a number of large-scale developments in the area which will impact on parish boundaries, and so I welcome that. As a member of Royston Town Council, I'm obviously very keen that we revisit those warding arrangements. It was a rare occasion when the Town Council were actually unanimous in their submission to the Boundary Commission that they wanted to stick with 3 wards. Actually, it was 4 before, but they wanted to go to 3 wards to mirror the district wards. And I still, for the life of me, can't understand why they came out with these 6 different wards. But anyway, I welcome it. And also the electoral cycle, as we've changed to every 4 years, it makes sense to offer the parishes the opportunity to fit in with that cycle, because obviously there's less administration and less cost involved in doing that. So I welcome that this is a wide-ranging review and very happy to support the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we go to debate. Councillor Ralph Muntzer.
Thank you, Chair. And just to follow on from the comments of Councillor Brown, as highlighted in the report, it's been since 2006 since the last community governance review has taken place. I would argue that it is long overdue. There has been an awful lot of change within our communities, within our district during that period of time. And I think it's a good opportunity to highlight the valuable role that both parish and town councils play in our community. Because whilst, yes, we are a 2-tier county in the sense that the lower tier authority is the district council, the upper tier authority is the county council, we could be described as a 3-tier authority, because actually, our parish councils are the closest ones to the community. Parish councils, more often than not, are far better attended by the members of the public than the district council. They have great convening power and they do absolutely superb work in our communities. And it's our duty to ensure that actually those parish councils, those structures and institutions are fit for purpose, and that they are going to be actually representing the communities of which they are situated in. And it's also important because Labour are more than likely, the new Labour government is going to engage in local government reform. They've said that there is no money left and that they're not going to be investing any additional funds into local government. The only alternative is to reform it. And if we are to see a unitary authority, which as members will know is something that I am very keen on myself for Hertfordshire, it's going to actually ensure that the role of the parish and town councils is exacerbated even more. It's going to make it even more important that we have that community level of governance. And it's important that we, of course, empower our communities to make the change of which they want to see. So I sincerely hope that our parish councils, our residents, other individuals really do engage in this consultation. I'm very much looking forward to seeing the result of an awful lot of work by our officers.
I can't see any other requests to speak. Can we therefore go to the vote?
Chair, that motion's carried.
Item 12, Annual Report on Risk Management Governance 23-24. Councillor Daniel Allen to present. Referral 8A, page 19 from Cabinet.
Thank you very much. This is to provide the committee with an update on the effectiveness of the risk management governance arrangements at North Herts Council. The review is referred on from Cabinet to Council to ensure there is effective oversight of this. The recommendation is that full Council notes this report.
Are there any questions? Councillor Paul Ward.
Thank you, Chair. I wish to declare an interest in item 13 and withdraw due to my employer and the investment strategy. Oh.
We're ahead of us. I wonder you was like, I'm confused.
Yeah.
I'm confused why Daniel's just done and then Councillor Ian.
Sorry. Yeah, I know. I was just from reading Paul.
Okay. Yes, that's correct, is it? Councillor Albert to present item.
Cheers, thanks, Chair, and I think obviously thanks particularly to our colleagues on the Finance, Audit and Risk Committee for their consideration of the item. As Councillor Allen has said, the report sets out the various aspects of work on risk management over the year to give assurance to Council that it's operating effectively, as well as covering our key risks and the review of those risks. It also covers a range of linked topics such as insurance, health and safety, business continuity. You can see a visual risk profile of the key corporate risks in paragraph 8.2.5. In addition to that, you can also see the high scoring service level risks, which are also documented and which sit below the corporate risks, and that can be found in paragraph 8.2.6. One of the things that FAR did talk about in their meeting was about how we can show future reports will show more detail about target risk scores and changes in risk scores for the corporate risks. And this will be easier when we have fewer projects, and that will allow us to have a better focus. And the one other thing, perhaps just to touch on briefly, Chair, in this report, that I think also that the senior management group had carried out an exercise in relation to risks, including our cyber attacks, which had resulted in the setting up of a new cross-party cyber board, which is highlighted in paragraph 8.5.3, and I hope that also be welcomed by members, that we're actually taking that as a really important area of work and new work as we go forward. Chair, we'd like to formally move that the council notes this report, and obviously thank our officers for all the work that they've done, Ian Cooper and his team, and officers right across the council in managing risks successfully over the course of the last year.
Thank you, Councillor Albert. Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Jarvis.
Thank you, Chairman. It's interesting to look at the list of corporate risks and to note that the new administration doesn't regard meeting the council's target for achieving net zero by 2030 as a risk. I'm very pleased would be very pleased if that were the case, but I'm rather sceptical as to whether or not it is. I think it's probably one of the most substantial risks that the council faces.
Councillor Ward.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I just want to comment on, as a new member of FAR, welcome Councillor Albert's support in the committee, and as he noted, the increased drive for more transparency around both the risks and what I think many of the officers are very actively already doing to mitigate those risks for us all. Thank you.
Councillor Allen.
Are we still on questions, Chair? Because we have a couple of moments from debate, but we don't appear to actually have any questions yet.
Or comments? Councillor Strong.
Thank you. Following on from Councillor Jarvis talking about a risk that was he's passionate about. When I look at the risks on this page, and one of the things that I'm very aware of within the council, as I'm sure all other members are, is some of the difficulties this council is having for recruiting of senior management and critical posts. And again, that doesn't seem to be appearing on our as a corporate risk. And again, perhaps all those issues that we've had, and we're now fully staffed in every single department. I hope that is the case, but if not, again, perhaps when the FAR look at this again, it's something that perhaps they might want to put consideration into putting it onto the matrix. Thank you.
Does Councillor Abbott want to respond to that question?
Well, I'm not happy to respond. There's probably a couple of points in there. I mean, I think in terms of Councillor Jarvis's point, obviously he was part of the previous administration, and obviously this reflects the previous administration's work, the Labour and Liberal Democrat previous administration. So obviously, presumably you had the chance to comment on and saw these reports on a fairly regular basis. But I mean, he makes an important point, and I think obviously one of the things that the risk group does look at, and obviously with service directors, and obviously that goes through to FAR, Cabinet, and this council obviously is emerging risks, and so certainly it's something I'd be very happy to take away, and obviously make sure that that is considered, and make sure that it does appear somewhere. But of course, the issue there in relation to recruitment is that I believe that, and you can see in 8.2.6 that recruitment is an issue, and some of those risks will actually appear as service level risks rather than at the corporate matrix. But clearly, obviously, the risk group will have a look at this, and clearly it's absolutely right. The FAR should be able to comment upon that, and obviously bring any issues and concerns as to whether any of those things should be escalated onto the corporate risk matrix. And so, very happy to take away any of those particular points. But as I say, there will be service level risks around some of those areas. So I think that's certainly around future work that we can take away and look at. So I hope obviously council will take away to note this particular report, but very happy to make sure these other issues are picked up elsewhere.
And is that the council notes the report. Can I have a proposer? Councillor Allen,
Happy to propose, Chair.
a seconder, Councillor Albert.
Yep.
Any debate? Nope. So can we move to a vote, please?
Chair, that motion's carried.
Investment strategy, capital and treasury end of year review. Councillor Ward.
Oh, thank you, Dave. I wish to declare an interest in item 13 and withdraw. It's a big surprise due to my employment and the investment strategy. Thank you.
Thank you. So investment strategy, capital and treasury, end of year review, 23 to 24. Councillor Daniel Allen to present referral 8B, page 21 from Cabinet.
My apologies, Chair. My apologies, IT issues. At the end of the financial year 23-24, there is a reduction in capital spend compared to Q3 of 4.12 million. Majority of this change is due to revisions to the profile of the planned project spend, with 2.851 million that will now instead be incurred in 24-25 and beyond. In addition, 1.150 million of the local authority housing fund was not required. During the year, the council has generated 2.941 million of interest from its investments. This is as budgeted for Q3, but significantly more than the original budget of 1.602 million. Council has repaid 0.02 million of borrowing during the year. As it has matured, the council has 0.347 million of remaining borrowing. The borrowing is at a fixed rate for a fixed period. Premium incurred for repaying this borrowing early means that it is not worthwhile to do so. Council complied with its legislative and regulatory requirements throughout the year. Can I pass this on to Councillor Albert?
Cheers, thanks, Chair, and thanks, Councillor Allen. I'm asking this evening that, as it says on the front of the paper, the council approved the actual 23-24 prudential and treasury indicators, that we note the annual treasury report for 23-24, and that we approve a change to the investment strategy, allowing investments to be placed on Lloyd's call account, so the combined total of current account and call account is up to £5 million. The first part of the report, as mentioned, relates to capital spend, which is spend on purchasing and maintaining assets, the things that have a useful life of more than 1 year. We've set out the position at the end of the financial year in the paper. Tables 2 and 3 details changes in forecast spend in the last quarter and the reason for those changes. Paragraph 8.6 details the capital schemes that have been completed during the year. And table 4, you can find details how the capital programme has been funded and shows our diminishing capital receipts. All capital spend has a revenue cost in either lost interest or external interest costs. When we reach a point where we can't fund our capital programme from capital receipts, then there is a further revenue charge to reflect the use of the asset over its useful life. Now, while we may have many aspirations about investing in the district, our capital programme needs to set out our actual plans. And as part of the budget process, the 25-26 process, we will be carrying out a full review of our capital spend to make sure it matches our priorities and is realistically achievable. The second part of the report relates to how we have invested surplus cash. As you'll see, during the year, the council had generated 2.941 million of interest from its investments. This is as budgeted for at Q3, but significantly more than the original budget of 1.602 million. Council's repaid 0.020 million of borrowing during the year as it has matured, and we still have 0.347 million of remaining borrowing. This borrowing is at a fixed rate for a fixed period. The premium incurred for repaying this borrowing early means while it's not worthwhile to do so. I can say the council fully complied with its legislative and regulatory requirement throughout the year. And as I say, all of those investments complied with our investment strategy. We've set out in the change in 8.19 to the investment strategy around the Lloyds call account. And to conclude to say, obviously, thanks to FAR have considered and actually spend considerable time considering this report overall, but with a particular focus on that investment strategy proposed change. Chair, I'd like to move the recommendations in the report and in front of you 2.1, 2.2 and 2.3.
Are there any questions? I can't see any questions, so the recommendation is that 2.1, the council approve the actual 23-24 prudential and treasury indicators. 2.2, that council notes the annual treasury report for 23-24. 2.3, that council approves a change into the investment strategy, allowing investments to be placed on Lloyds call account, so the combined total of current account and call account is up to 5 million. Can I have a proposer? Councillor Albert, and can I have a seconder? Councillor Allen. Is there any debate? I can't see any debate, so can we go to the vote?
Chair, that motion's carried.
Item 14, revenue budget outturn 23-24. Councillor Allen to present referral 8C, page 23 from Cabinet.
Thank you. This to inform us of the summary position on revenue, income and expenditure at the end of the financial year 23-24. And I'm going to pass it over to Councillor Albert.
Cheers. Thanks, thanks, Chair. And I'll try and be reasonably brief because I suspect some colleagues might like a break fairly soon. The overall purpose of this report was to inform Cabinet of the summary position and obviously now Council on revenue, income and expenditure at the end of the financial year 23-24. Net outturn of 16.494 million represents 194,000 decrease from the net working budget of 16.688 million. There is one, formal recommendation for full council that we approve the net transfer to earmarked reserves as identified in table 9 of 2.028 million. So obviously we clearly we review our budgets each quarter, come up with revised estimate, and again obviously thanks to FAR for their work on helping cabinet and this council in actually reviewing and scrutinising these financial monitors. There are a number of requests to carry forward budget for planned work that not have been completed by the end of the financial year. Table 4 sets out the significant variances, including the extra work needed from our external auditors to meet new regulatory and compliance standards. To give overall context, Appendix A provides summary details of variances over the whole year. This demonstrates that the most significant element is that we've had higher than expected returns on our cash investments due to the higher interest rates I mentioned in the previous paper. This feeds into the increased year-end general fund balance detailed in Table 7. Our cash balances and interest rates will drop, so this is not a continuing source of income. I think probably just to conclude, Chair, is obviously we've just had the general election, and clearly one of the things that we want and hope is that actually from a new government that we can get rather a great deal more certainty about our revenue income in future years than we've had previously. This has, I think, made it difficult for all councils of all political persuasions and actually difficulties in managing those budgets. But I'd like to thank Ian Cooper and his team and staff right across the council for the way that actually our budgets have been successfully managed over the last year, which leaves us in a strong position to be able to manage our budgets and as we go through into the budget process in the autumn, a good place to meet the challenges that we'll all face in the year ahead. But I say ours this evening though, in moving this particular outturn report for 23-24, that we agree the recommendation in 2.1. Chair, I move.
Are there any questions for Councillor Albert? No. So the recommendation is that Council approves the net transfer to earmark reserves as identified. Oh no, is that right? Yeah. As identified in Table 9 of 2.028 million. Can I have a proposer in Albert, and can I have a seconder? Councillor Allen. Can we move to debate? No debate, so can we go to the vote, please?
Chair, that motion's carried.
Okay, I propose that we have a 5-minute comfort break. Can we be back by 9:15, please? Item 15, land to the north of the Grange, LG1 Strategic Master Plan Framework. Councillor Daniel Allen. Okay, sorry.
And I shall
There's no one.
therefore be taking no part in this part of the debate.
Councillor Strong.
Before we start, because you've got to be in the chamber for the whole of the meeting, can I just go out and give a shout to see, collect a few colleagues that seem to be missing?
The Grange, Councillor Allen to present item and referral 8F from Cabinet page 3 of supplementary agenda.
Thank you. This report from Cabinet has come from Cabinet, who have positively recommended the approval of the Strategic Master Plan Framework for the land north of Letchworth Garden City to full council. Site is allocated for development in the council's adopted local plan. It's site LG1 policy SP15, a strategic site for the approximately 900 homes and supporting infrastructure. Policies of the local plan require the preparation of a master plan for this site. A master plan has been produced by the applicant's team working with council officers and advisors. This has followed approved guidelines and procedures. The draft master plan has been subject to public consultation. The master plan provides an appropriate framework for the future planning and development of this strategic site. The report and its considerations are subject to having been positively referred by Cabinet on the 9th of July 2024. Thank you, Chair.
Are there any questions? No, there are no questions. The recommendation is the Strategic Master Plan Framework for land to the north of the Grange, LG1, attached to Appendix A, is approved and adopted as a material planning consideration for relevant planning decisions relating to the site. Can I have a proposer? Councillor Daniel Allen. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Ruth Brown.
Very happy to second, reserve my right to speak.
Can we move to the debate? There doesn't seem to be anybody wanting to. Oh, Councillor Brown.
I am delighted to support this master plan. We heard from the speaker earlier that their ambition was for this to be exemplary, and I believe it is. It's an excellent example of partnership working. They have worked really well with the community in consultation. They've worked with North Herts officers. They've worked with North Herts College. They've worked with the LEP. There's all sorts of added extras in this plan. Agreements around apprenticeships, cooperative housing, community land. There's been a lot of work around integrating it into the Grange estate and work with our officers over the Grange, the vision for the Grange recreation ground. And I think that's the reason it's so good is partly because they are really invested in it, and they are going to be the landowner in perpetuity, and they want it to be as good as it can be. So it's very much a landscape-led development that goes over and above the minimum and the expected standards. There's 40% of open space. The sustainability principles, they meet most of them and are working to meet the rest. I was slightly concerned about the 10% modal shift target. I didn't think that was very high, but they're expecting to exceed that, and they've explained why that is. The biodiversity net gain, they're expecting to exceed the minimum requirement. They're going to be 19, pushing on 20%. It includes hedgehog corridors and swift boxes, all on site. There's also the 40% affordable homes, including community housing for Letchworth residents. And I think that's really, really important. And the speaker highlighted that aspect. So the community are very satisfied with this plan. They've been widely involved in the consultation, and I'm extremely happy to support the approval of this master plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Daniel Allen.
Thank you, Chair. I too am very happy with the master plan. I would like to thank the developers and the Heritage Foundation for the amount of work they have done in working with the public over this. They have had many, many different events throughout the Grange estate to speak to residents of the Grange and Norton to find out what they want to see and how they want this development to be run. To say that everybody is in favour would not be true, but the vast majority are, and everyone knows they are being listened to. I would remind the Heritage Foundation of what we say at the beginning of all of our meetings, that we have declared an environmental and ecological emergency. And I'm very pleased with the way they have considered that during this master plan. So I will definitely be voting in favour of it. Thank you.
Okay, there doesn't seem to be anybody else wants to speak on this item. So can we move to a vote, please?
Chair, that motion's carried.
Okay, item 16, North Stevenage Strategic Master Plan Framework. Councillor Daniel Allen to present item and referral 8G from Cabinet, page 5 of the supplementary agenda.
Thank you, Chair. Much like the previous, this report asks full council to positively recommend the approval of the Strategic Master Plan Framework for land to the north of Stevenage. This site is allocated for development in the council's adopted local plan, site NS1 policy SP16, a strategic site for approximately 900 homes and supporting infrastructure. The policies of the local plan require the preparation of a master plan for this site. A master plan for this site has been produced by the applicant team working with council officers and advisors. This has followed approved guidance and procedures. The draft master plan has been subject to public consultation. The master plan provides an appropriate framework for the future planning and development of the strategic site. This report and its considerations have been referred from Cabinet at its meeting on the 9th of July 2024. Thank you, Chair.
Are there any questions? Councillor Tom Tyson.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a few questions about this one, actually. First of all, can I just ask about the relationship between the strategic master plan and the outline planning application that's submitted? And what is the relationship between the two, the hierarchy and the sequence of what happens when?
Councillor Daniel Allen.
To say thank you very much for your question, I shall pass you over to the Strategic Planning Manager.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor. Yes, in this instance, Councillor Tyson, you're correct. An outline application has been lodged with the council, which is under consideration. That has not been determined. So obviously, this master plan is with you tonight ahead of determination of that application, which was fully in line with our policies. Subject to you accepting this master plan, then effectively that provides the design framework against which the outline application can be judged alongside all the policies in the plan and all the other relevant considerations. So any future report to Planning Control Committee would make reference to local plan policies, national planning policy framework in the usual way, but would also make reference to how the outline application relates to this master plan and does it deliver upon it.
Councillor John Claydon.
Thank you, Chair. In paragraph 8.4, it says that Kudos Homes have agreed in principle to prepare a design code for the site. Given that some of the sustainability principles are not yet addressed and remain to be picked up potentially at that design code stage, can I ask how firm that commitment is and at what stage those issues will be dealt with, if not at that stage, if it doesn't in fact happen?
Councillor Allen.
Again, I shall refer.
Thank you. In terms of commitment, work on the design code is already underway between the applicant team and the officers. For those members that attended the training on Monday, and perhaps more usefully for those that didn't, the master plan is effectively probably the second in about 6 stages that this scheme will pass through in terms of design detail and approval. So obviously the site was allocated in the local plan as step 1. The master plan here gives you a kind of overall design framework. Then it moves through the planning process, and a design code starts fixing some of the real detail around street widths, treatments, how buildings might look, what might be in the detail of the open spaces. So that's what will be in the design code, which is why in the appendix to report where it talks about those sustainability principles not being met, you're right, it kind of flags that the design code is probably the most likely place for those to be picked up. The design code is effectively a set of rules that then guides the detailed permissions for kind of phases of the site as they come forward.
Councillor Allen.
So in short, not at this point.
There don't seem to be any further questions, so the recommendation is oh, sorry, Tom Tyson.
Sorry, I do have a couple more questions, actually. On the question of the retail provision, which was it was being decided to withdraw that from the master plan. Why could you just elaborate on why that decision was taken, given that this is a site that might house a population of about 3,000 people eventually? And if the answer is that the provision will be elsewhere, for example, in the neighbouring site at HO3, where can we see what the provision there will be? Because I haven't been able to discover that.
The local plan identified, as you correctly identify, that there should be some retail provision on the site. Obviously, as you all know, the local plan had quite a long gestation. So the evidence that underpins those numbers predates in particular the COVID pandemic, which obviously changed quite dramatically shopping habits and accelerated some of that move to online. So the applicant team, as part of the evidence behind this master plan, did a supplementary study that essentially said it wouldn't be viable to provide retail on this site. You're correct, there are retail facilities proposed in the neighbouring Stevenage site. I don't have the precise details to hand, but I can certainly provide details of the application in which that's set out. So the focus within this master plan is therefore more on community facilities. There's a community hub provided with the detail again of that to follow in terms of the precise uses to go in it.
Councillor Alistair Willoughby.
Thank you, Chair. Forgive me if I've missed this from the report, and I'm sure there's more detail to come in outline planning permissions, etc. But I think it's very well known the provision of health facilities is in pretty dire state across the district, across the country, really. I can't see that there is a particular look towards health provision within this site, and I'm not sure how that's going to be covered in, whether that's covered in the adjacent site, or whether it's at the moment assumed that there's going to be some kind of use of the current provision, which I'm not sure is necessarily going to be adequate for this many more houses. And certainly I know Lister Hospital is close, and we certainly wouldn't want to see people going there for small health need when they should be going to a GP. Can I have some sort of insight as to what that might look like?
Certainly. So similar to last answer, the master plan provides land and space for a community hub and identifies a range of possible uses that might go into it. Again, at this stage, we're looking at kind of broad principles, but health is identified as one potential use. We're in ongoing discussions with the NHS. Obviously, ultimately, it's an operational decision for the local integrated care board as to whether they look to take space in a community hub here, or whether they look to deal with the increased demand through existing facilities being expanded or improved. Planning provides the space. It's for the NHS and the ICB and the operators to decide whether that's the space they want to take or make use of.
Councillor Claydon.
Thank you. Can I just ask for clarity about public consultation? Do I understand correctly that this master plan has only been effectively shown to the public once?
Yes, that's correct. There was a round of public consultation last spring, early summer. So there was a public exhibition at Stevenage Rugby Club, and there was also all the materials made available online where it was sort of left available. I think it's still available. It was left available over a longer period, so there was opportunity for the public to make comments. But there has been meetings with stakeholders, including Groveley Parish Council, as part of the preparation of the master plan outside of that consultation period.
Councillor Barnes.
Thank you, Chair. On the subject of the defensible green belt boundary to the north, could you give some more detail about why a solid tree line belt is considered not appropriate? And this is listed in the community involvement statement.
Certainly, yeah. I think if we were planning this development, we were sat here sort of 30 years ago, then I imagine the developer would already be out with a sort of trailer load of conifers, planting it up. But sort of life's moved on in planning and design terms. So in design terms, we're now encouraged much more to integrate sites with their surroundings. And from an ecological point of view, sort of dense monocultures like that really aren't encouraged in terms of how they do or don't support species. So the planting strategy that's set out to the level of detail it is here talks about a mix of tree and hedgerow planting along that northern boundary, and that's considered most appropriate in sort of design, landscape and ecological terms.
Councillor Munzer.
Thank you. Just one question from me. Would you be able to go into the detail as to the joint working between North Hertfordshire District Council and Stevenage Borough Council? Seems as this is overall a settlement of which is going to, cross the district boundary effectively, and it's important that we've actually got a joined up approach.
Certainly, yep, you're correct that obviously once this is built, then this and the adjoining development in Stevenage will on the ground be very much experienced as one community. Yeah, we've engaged with Stevenage Council officers and with the applicants for the adjoining site, which are Bellway and Miller Homes, who are on site constructing at the moment. In particular around the linkages between the two sites. So through the master plan process, in particular, Bellway, with the help of the County Council, were advised to move the access between the two sites further to the east so we can have a coherent bus loop between the sites. And also we've worked to ensure there's points of connection for pedestrians and cyclists in particular, to navigate between the two sites and from the north of Stevenage site through there into the wider networks within Stevenage.
Councillor Answer.
Thank you. Just to follow up on that. So you mentioned two developers there. None of them are Crowders Homes. So can I assume that those two developers have separate design codes to what Crowders would be proposing, and therefore is sort of the development constrained in what you can and can't do with those specific design codes?
Yeah, obviously the permissions for the Stevenage site are administered by Stevenage Borough Council, so they're in control of what's permitted there in terms of design. Some constraints, but equally there is some quite robust planting along the borough boundary in places. So it doesn't necessarily follow that what's being built in the Miller Bellway site has to be repeated or kind of echoed on our side. I think there is plenty of scope for this, for the Crowdace site to have a distinct character that reflects, obviously, it will now form the outer edge of Stevenage as expanded, sort of facing out to the countryside.
Any further questions? Well, Councillor Strong.
Yes, sorry, just a bit late on this. Again, having gone to that training on Monday, it was sort of, yes, we were told it has to be sort of the vision that we're going to get from it. And they talked, again, in training, we talked about movement routes within the development. But looking at the plan, there's only seems to be one access point into this new development proposed, which is a lot of pressure. I mean, there might be another one going in through the neighbouring development, but effectively there's only one primary access in. With the consultation with Highways, was that their preferred option?
Yes, essentially, there's one access, as you say, off North Road, but because of the connection into the neighbouring site in Stevenage, essentially that will form a loop that then comes out to a second access point within the Stevenage site. So the Stevenage site currently has two access points off North Road, but should this site be implemented, the county will ultimately ask for one of those to be closed off. So there's one continuous loop between the two sites. So there'll be two access points into the development.
Councillor Sam Collins.
Yeah, just to clarify that last comment. So we're saying there's going to be a total of 2 access roads onto North Road, which is, when it's open, is already pretty darn congested anyway, particularly at certain times around Junction 8 and also around people coming and going from the Lister Hospital. Seems a little bit excessive to dump all of that traffic, because there's an awful lot of homes when you combine both of those developments into the same 2 roads going into an already congested road. I mean, that sounds like an AQMA waiting to happen. Surely that's not the best. Is that really what Highways approved?
Yes, in short. Obviously, when the site was allocated, both in our plan and Stevenage's plan, it was subject to transport modelling to show that the network could cope, and there will also be further transport assessments associated with the outline application for this site. So yeah, the master plan sets the design framework, but it is ultimately for those other processes to look at the sort of the detailed modelling in terms of movement. Obviously, what I would say on this site is that it's clearly not all about cars. Given where it's located on the edge of Stevenage, there are some really good opportunities to plug into the cycle network and the facilities within the town. And this master plan has really focused on getting those connections right for walking and cycling.
Thank you. Just to reference the point surrounding the transport monitoring, because I think Councillor Collins raised a very, very good point there about all of the infrastructure potentially not being able to cope. Was this modelling conducted by an independent third party, or was it conducted by the developer themselves?
The modelling for the local plan was conducted by the district council through the county council, and then any assessments that accompany the application, as is standard, will be conducted by the applicant team. But obviously the county council acts as the statutory consultee for the application to comment on highways impact and those assessments.
Councillor Jarvis.
Yes, I mean, I think the whole question of access is an important one, and clearly there's a desire to promote active travel. To what extent does this master plan rely on provisions off-site, either in the Stevenage development or beyond that, in order to achieve those sort of targets in terms of active travel as a means of reducing congestion?
In terms of the master plan, kind of the approach agreed with the county council was we should make sure there are as many connections as possible through into the neighbouring site, on the basis that that site in turn has connections through into Stevenage where there are existing networks. There have been interventions recently, obviously within Stevenage, to improve the cycle network in the north of the town, to connect up towards these sites. So yeah, there's no, at this master plan stage, there's no specific off-site measures identified, but equally you would expect the application, again, in the standard way, to make contributions to the projects in that wider area, which the county council decide which are most appropriate.
No more questions. So can we move to the recommendation? The strategic master plan framework for North Stevenage, attached to Appendix A, is approved and adopted as a material planning consideration for relevant planning decisions relating to the site. Can I have a proposer? Councillor Allen.
Happy to propose, Chair.
And can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Debenham.
Yeah, I'll second that. Thank you.
Can we move to the debate? Councillor Griffiths.
Thank you. So I think it's been raised a few times, but I just wanted to bring it to the council's attention again. I live in Little Wymanley, and at the moment, Junction 8 between the time of 8 o'clock and about 9:20 is just awful, both on the motorway, but also getting onto the road itself. Sometimes it can take me up to 10 to 15 minutes to actually get onto the junction itself. So I'm really concerned of the idea that there is essentially going to be one road in and one road out, and it's going to be a loop, particularly if the second, the site that isn't actually on the proposals in HO2 and HO3, even in Stevenage, is built. I think it is a little bit disingenuous because it isn't included on the maps. So I just want to say how disappointed I am that there's only going to be one loop, one road in and one road out.
Councillor Winstanley.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I appreciate this is probably more relevant to the design code stage, but I just wanted to sort of make a point that I think we should be striving for the highest levels of sustainability with these sites, regarding sustainability, but energy efficiency, low fossil fuel dependence, biodiversity net gain. I know there are sort of perceived barriers to development between house builders and when you put these stipulations in place, but I think we should be striving for the highest level and then sort of rowing back only absolutely where necessary, rather than accepting a lower level at outset. Thanks.
Councillor Muncer.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to all of those colleagues who have contributed in terms of both the debate and the questions of which have been raised. And certainly I think that there exist a number of outstanding issues which really do need to be addressed here, particularly relating to infrastructure. It is not right, I would argue, that we propose the development of over 900 homes on a spot of land without actually supporting the infrastructure for those homes and for those residents. And I think certainly we've heard points tonight about healthcare provision and community facilities. We've heard points relating particularly to access as well. And whilst, yes, the developer is proposing a number of different active travel links, equally as well, we have got to take into account the fact that the vast majority of people drive, they rely heavily on their cars. And as has been pointed out tonight, this is already an immensely congested area of road. And on that basis, I think the developer really does need to go back to the drawing board, and we need to have a more linked up approach with the other development and making sure that actually we are building for the future. We are building a suitable and sustainable community for the future.
Councillor Allen, Daniel Allen.
This is one of the approved sites in the local plan, a local plan that was brought up many years ago, as we said, but this has been approved on many levels. At the moment, we're talking about a master plan. When it goes to planning, we can then look at more of the options as we go ahead. At the moment, we need to approve this to make sure that we can get the extra homes that we so desperately need in North Hertfordshire. We have had announcements made by our new government about the need for more homes, and this is definitely something that we need to look at and go through. I agree, highways are challenging. I would like to say worse than that, but I am being recorded. And I agree there is an issue, but that is something that will be sorted at the planning stage. This is the master plan stage, and I feel that we do need to approve this. Thank you.
Councillor Ruth Brown.
Thank you, Chair. So there are many good aspects about this master plan, and I think Crowdis Homes have worked very proactively and very much in partnership with our team of officers over the last 2-3 years. I've been privileged to see them present twice now at the Strategic Sites Board. I think the overarching thing that this site suffers from is that it's actually half a site. It's half a housing development. And really, this should have been master planned with the Stevenage site together. Now, I know our officers work very hard to try and work together and to get those aligned in terms of the timescales. It wasn't all in our gift, and the Stevenage site is already being built out. So we can't really revisit that, unfortunately, but it does suffer from that because it should really have been master planned as a site as a whole across boundary, and I don't even know whether there's a precedent for that, but that would have been the ideal situation. I think maybe that could be something around, I know there's a duty to cooperate on local plans, but maybe there could be a duty to cooperate on cross-border sites. Maybe that's something the Labour government could think about. Anyway, there has also been a relative lack of community engagement. So whilst we were talking about Letchworth and how outstanding the work with the community and lots of partners was, this has had a relative lack of engagement, which is a shame. And I think there is although they have done a community engagement, they have talked to the Gravely Parish Council, it has been a bit token, I feel. There's also issues of stewardship. So they haven't established whether they're going to be involved long term, whether there's going to be a management company or whether they're going to continue to manage it. And so there are a number of issues. Having said that, there are also some really good things. They're policy compliant on affordable housing, which we desperately need. I think the community focus is good, given that there will be retail provision on the Stevenage site. I think they've worked quite hard to try and respect the surroundings and Gravelly Village. I know we've had some questions around the Northern Buffer, but I hear the response from our strategic planning manager, and I'm quite satisfied with that. So I think it suffers from being half a development, and it's a real shame that these could not be aligned in the timeframe, but we are where we are. So I think we have to determine it on what we have before us tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Tyson.
Thank you. I'd also like to say that I think there's an obvious issue here of the disconnect between the two sites, and that there's a lack of information about what's available in the Stevenage side of things in terms of co-location of facilities and services. Now, SP16 in the local plan talks about this being a coherent extension of Stevenage to the north. Well, I don't see this as being particularly coherent at all. It talks about a master planning exercise that will need to consider the collective implications of these allocations and demonstrate appropriate solutions. But I don't see the evidence of the collective element of that. And in the design review panel comments on the outline application, they talk about undertaking meaningful public consultation. Well, we've already just questioned that, in order to understand what the scheme can provide for the wider communities of Gravelly and Stevenage and improve integration with existing neighbourhoods. And I'm not sure that I can see how that works from what's in this master plan at the moment. And as I said before, I am disappointed that at the lack of facilities that are provided for in the NS1 part of this, or half of this application. I live near a village of 2,000 people that has a GP surgery, a dentist, a primary school, butchers, bakers, general store, hairdresser, 3 pubs, a cafe, and many other local businesses, including a garage and an MOT station. And I don't, and I think that people there feel that they're very well provided for. And I don't think that 900 homes with a community hub and an electric bike rack or something is really, cuts the mustard as far as I'm concerned. So I'm not going to be able to vote in favour of this.
Councillor Munzer.
I'm aware I've already spoken, Chair, but with your permission, may I potentially put a question to the strategic planning manager relating to what are the consequences if council were to reject this master plan this evening, to allow the developer to take on board the comments of councillors and potentially to engage further with the community?
You may.
Thank you, Councillor Munzer. It's clearly within the gift of council to either accept the recommendation or go against it. The way the terms of reference of the project board are written, that if it was to be the recommendation was not supported tonight, it will be referred back to project board, who will then discuss it with the developer and see whether there's any movement going forward. And then we would come back within the terms of reference to cabinet with a yes, it's changed, positive recommendation to council, or there is no more movement.
Councillor Sam Collins.
Thank you, Chair. So just to clarify what Ian Fulton just told us, that essentially if we reject this tonight, they have to go away, tweak it, make it better and bring it back. Well, that sounds a really good outcome to me. So if that's the case, it seems very clear to vote no, because we shouldn't be letting through bad planning just because there's other stuff coming down the line. We should be making sure. And I think Councillor Winstanley made a very good point about health precision. I've heard some other good points from the Labour side here, talking about various aspects here that we should be insisting that are in this. So let's make sure that Crudace listen, because I've been involved in planning applications with them before and they've been very receptive. Let them listen to this, go away, make the correct changes, come back and, let's have another look. I think that's a really good outcome.
Councillor Matt Barnes.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to endorse the comments made by Councillor Tyson and Councillor Collins. So, thank you.
Councillor Tim Johnson.
I think he's hit the nail on the head, and I won't be voting for it either.
Okay, so there's no more members wanting to debate this. Can we go to a vote?
Chair, that motion is lost. It's 1625. That's two.
They all voted before, so that it's not an issue with the system.
Yeah.
People didn't press the button.
We will take the vote again.
Same as every time. Yeah. And we can.
Chair, that motion is lost.
Okay, item 17, Finance Audit and Risk Committee Annual Report 23-24. Can I ask Councillor Nolan to present?
Thank you, Chair. I'll be very brief on this. Primarily, I'd like to firstly give a couple of thanks to our staff, particularly Chanel Wickenden and Ian Cooper, for their support so far in my time as Chair, as well to John Cannon, our independent member in person, who provides much experience to the committee. Noted in the report is the fact that a number of members have moved on. I'd like to pay particular thanks to Terry Tyler, the previous Chair, our current Chair of the Council, Claire Billing, for her time on the committee and as Vice Chair, and as well to Terry Hone, after many years serving on this and other committees, and the experience that he provided. Other than that, I've got nothing else to add. I think take the report as it's read, and I would like to move the motion for it to be noted.
Are there any questions? No questions. So the recommendation is that Council note the annual report of the Finance Audit and Risk Committee as attached at Appendix A. You've proposed it. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Allen.
Happy to second, Chair. Thank you.
Can we go to debate? No debate. Can we go to the vote, please?
Chair, that motion is lost. Sorry, Chair, that motion is carried.
Item 18, Overview and Scrutiny Committee Annual Report 23-24. Councillor Val Bryant to present.
Thank you. As Vice Chair of Overview and Scrutiny 23-24, I'd like to present to you the annual report for last year that outlines the work of the committee, which you've got in Appendix A. There are no legal, financial, risk or equalities implications in this report. Most notable is that last year we followed the recommendations of the peer review, and we now have a scrutiny officer, Jeevan Mann, who's been working with us since January. We look forward to her actually transforming the work of the committee. I propose that you accept this review report. Thank you.
Are there any questions? No, there are no questions. So I move to the recommendation that the annual report of the Overview Scrutiny Committee 23-24 as attached at Appendix A be noted. You've proposed it, so can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Allen.
Happy to second, Chair. Thank you.
And can we move to debate, please? Councillor Matt Barnes.
Thanks, Chair. Just want to thank Councillor Bryant for her work as Vice Chair on the committee last year, and also to the outgoing Councillor Compton. Looking forward to it. Well, we're already continuing the great work that they started, so thank you very much.
And Councillor Daniel Allen.
I would like to second Councillor Barnes, thanking previous Overview and Scrutiny Board for all their work, and I would like to say that I'm very impressed so far with how Councillor Barnes has been running Overview and Scrutiny. Thank you.
No more debate. Can we move to the vote, please?
Chair, the motion is carried.
Item 19, Annual Report of the Standards Committee 23-24. Councillor Ruth Brown to present.
Oh, I hit the wrong button. Thank you, Chair. So I'm delighted to present this report. The Standards Committee has been pretty busy actually in the last year. As you will note, we made changes to the member planning code of conduct of good practice, and we also updated the councillor complaints handling procedure. And I would like to thank particularly the independent persons, Nicholas Moss, Peter Chapman and John Richardson, for their detailed work, and our officers, of course, especially our monitoring officer, Jeanette, and our deputy monitoring officer, Isabel, for their work. And I would also like to note that the number of complaints actually fell last year, which is, I think, I'm delighted about that. That doesn't necessarily mean the work falls. A lot of officer time is taken up in investigating complaints, and we do that very thoroughly. All the complaints are reviewed by our independent persons as to whether they need an investigation, and we take that very seriously. And I think it's really important that we uphold the standards of public life. As you know, we've seen nationally, we've seen an attack on those standards, and I think this council has been exemplary in holding up those Nolan principles and those standards. And so I'm delighted to present this report and propose that we note, I think it's for noting, is it? Or is it? Yes, that we note receives and note the report as Appendix A. Thank you.
Are there any questions? No questions, so we can move to the recommendation that Council receives and notes the annual report as at Appendix A. You've already proposed it, so can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Alistair Willoughby.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to start by thanking our outgoing Chair, the monitoring officer and deputies, other council officers, our independent person and reserves, and the Vice Chair, who I'm pleased is carrying on this year to support me, for all of the fantastic work they've put in over the last year. I look forward to continuing working with the team over this year. It is, yes, I know. I've got a little bit, and then I'm done as the new chair of the Standards Committee. It is worth remembering that the work of the Standards Committee is not just a means to hold us to account, but to help us engage with other members, council officers and residents more positively in our service to the district and the people that we represent. I'm keen as the new chair of the Standards Committee to ensure that all members of this council are able to work together and engage positively for a better, more thriving council, and very happy to second this report.
Councillor Daniel Allen.
I'll wait for the debate.
Can we move to the debate then? Oh, I need to do the oh no, it's fine. I'm reading the wrong bit. Debate.
That's cool, thank you. I just want to point out 8.4. Standards Committee also recommend full council that mandatory training be undertaken by all district councillors newly or re-elected within 2 months of the election. can I recommend everybody make sure they do that? Thank you.
Thank you. Nobody else wants to participate in the debate. So can we move to the vote, please?
Chair, that motion's carried.
Item 20, Leisure Investments and Decarbonisation Project. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to pass this on to the Executive, Councillor Mick Debenham, please.
Thank you, Daniel. Before I start, can I just apologise for my late arrival this evening? Thank you. In February of this year, the Council was advised that its application to the Public Sector Decarbonisation Scheme for a project to enable substantial decarbonisation of the leisure centres in Hitchin, Royston and Letchworth had been successful. The Council was awarded over £7.7 million in grant funding for measures including air source heat pumps, solar PV and substantial improvements to the fabric of the buildings. In addition, the Council agreed funding of £3.06 million to fund our match contributions for the grant and additional project costs such as preliminaries. Emissions from the leisure centres account for 45% of the Council's own emissions. As identified at paragraph 8.1, the carbon savings for the project are significant, reducing the emissions at each leisure centre by over 60%. As members are aware, this Council has declared a climate emergency, and replacing gas heating at the leisure centres is the single most effective action we can take towards meeting our target of being carbon neutral for our operations by 2030. Upon confirmation of the grant award, we commissioned Wilmot Dixon to carry out detailed feasibility studies for the works. During feasibility, some technical issues were identified, see paragraph 8.6, which have led to cost increases. A further issue was also identified regarding the termination of the gas CHP units at Hitchin and Letchworth, see 8.10. Alongside the feasibility for the decarbonisation works, Wilmot Dixon also carried out feasibility for a gym extension at Royston. There has been a cost increase for this project as well, see 8.15, primarily due to ensuring that the extension is built to net zero carbon standards. The report to Council therefore lists recommendations at 2.1 to 2.3 regarding termination of the gas CHP units and proposed increase in capital budgets, which would enable the decarbonisation project and gym extension to proceed. I move. Thank you.
Are there any questions? No questions. So I move to the recommendations at 2.1 that Council approves an increase in capital expenditure of 2.4 million into the capital programme for the decarbonisation work to the 3 leisure centres. The overall budget will be profiled across 24-25 and 25-26. 2.2 that Council approves an increase in the capital budget of 250,000 for the Royston Leisure Centre gym extension to ensure that the extension is built to net zero carbon standards, and 2.3 that Council approves revenue expenditure of up to 757,000 for termination and removal fees of the gas CHPs at North Herts Leisure Centre and Hitchin Fitness and Swimming Centre. This would be funded from general funding reserved. Can I have a proposer? Councillor Debenham.
I propose, thank you.
And a seconder? Councillor Allen.
Happy to propose second, Chair.
Can we move to debate, please? Councillor Munzer.
Thank you, Chair. And as Councillor Debenham rightly points out, 45% of all of this authority's emissions come from our leisure centres, and therefore it is incredibly welcome that the previous Conservative government gave nearly £8 million worth of funding to this authority for this project. Because the fact is that this is not particularly something of which would be affordable for us to do otherwise. There is no guarantee that any government in the future would run a similar grant scheme. And the fact is that this is a nearly £9 million project. If council were to fund that out of our own reserves, out of our own funding, we would simply have to make, we would either not be able to do it, or we would have to make significant budget cuts and increase borrowing. So I strongly welcome this in the most possible circumstances. The fact as well, we've got the gym extension at Royston Leisure Centre. That's going to, of course, improve and increase the quality of the facilities for residents in Royston, as well as increasing the return that this council gets on that investment. And I know at Overview and Scrutiny Committee, we also discussed about the Royston Leisure Learner Pool. Unfortunately, at this time, it's not financially, commercially viable. It would result in this authority subsidising it to quite a significant amount, but certainly the business case should be kept under review, and I sincerely hope that that is heard by both executive members and by officers, to ensure that should that situation change and there is a situation of where it does become commercially viable, then we should be investigating that in order to obviously provide a really good facility to the residents in Royston, and equally as well to bolster our finances.
Councillor Barnes.
Thank you, Chair. Just a few points from me. In relation to 7.7, I want to thank Cabinet for adopting the revised recommendations of ONS. I think it shows our process is working. And in relation to Royston Learner Pool in particular, I think it recognises this is a much needed facility in the local area. And I sincerely hope that the administration will leave no stone unturned in their efforts to make it work. And I want to offer my full support in them in doing that. Just turning to the recommendations, again discussed at length, as Councillor Munster pointed out at Overview and Scrutiny. Clearly, it's regrettable to be in the position that we're in, and particularly in relation to the Centrica termination fees, but it still is right to go ahead for all the reasons set out in the report. And finally, it's fantastic to be able to reconfirm the decision on Royston Gym extension, and I look forward to seeing that progress on the site soon.
Councillor Martin Prescott.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to echo the comments of Councillor Munster and Councillor Barnes, and would wholeheartedly support the recommendation, but with the proviso that has been said that we keep the learner pool at Royston under review to the extent that when funds do become available, if and when, that we revisit. Thank you.
Councillor Ruth Brown.
I'd like to echo all those comments too. I wholeheartedly support this. I think it's, as you know, I'm passionate about the environment and about needing to reduce our carbon emissions. This makes a big contribution to that. I think it's very good for our public reputation as well, for big ticket projects like this to show our commitment to reducing our carbon emissions. And it is regrettable that we're having to put extra money into it, but it's the right thing to do. And we have received a substantial grant and we should be using it. So I wholeheartedly support it. I agree that the learner pool should be kept under review, and hopefully we can find some external funding that will support that project. And I just want to also thank the officers for the work they've done on this and their commitment to doing their utmost to achieve our target of net carbon zero by 2030. So thank you very much for all your hard work in this.
Councillor Ian Albert.
Cheers. Thanks, Chair. And I support the recommendations, and obviously thank Councillor Barnes for his words. And indeed, obviously, not only have we taken on board as Cabinet the recommendations of scrutiny, I think we've actually probably even strengthened them, because I think it's what's really important here in terms of the learner pool, that we actually do that actively piece of work to look at other funding options. And as I mentioned earlier on about the capital programme, that we will obviously make sure that along with other issues and other projects included very much part of that review of the capital programme as we move towards the 25-26 budget setting process. Let's be clear, colleagues, this is still challenging because there are choices to be made, and if you do some things, you can't do others. But I do genuinely believe that that increase that we are recommending to you this evening in our capital expenditure programme of the 2.4 million is the right thing to do. It makes use of the grant that we've received. It actually heads us towards the net zero in our leisure centres as part of our climate emergency strategy. I think that is an important message to send out to the community, and I think actually is something that our residents will think is a high priority for them as well as this council. I think it is disappointing about the gas CHPs. We'll continue to work on that and do what we can, but obviously there is that additional cost there, which in Cabinet, and I know both Scrutiny and Finance Committee obviously expressed their unhappiness as well about. But I think overarchingly here, what we can say is that this is a really important project. We've set out as well that we actually think we need that some external expertise that is part of the programme, and bringing in an external quantities surveyor to help manage this project and hopefully drive down the cost, so actually making it even more value for money. Then I think it's a recognition of how we need to run projects and lessons learned from past major projects. So colleagues, I would recommend, and certainly happy to support the recommendations this evening, and also obviously very much so we will continue to work on the Royston Learner Pool to see if we can make that work as well. Very happy to support, Chair.
Councillor Daniel Allen.
I'll keep it short but sweet. Thank you so much to the officers for going out of their way to enable this to happen. This is something that was found proactively by our officers, will make a massive difference to our commitment towards net zero, and thank you.
Okay, nobody else wants to debate, so can we move to the vote, please?
Chair, that motion's carried.
Thank you very much. I'll now close the meeting at 10:22. The next full council meeting is on the 19th of September.